We're going to start our math. Your worksheet that you'll be doing today is 231 and 232. Get that out right now and have it with you. We're going to work the first several problems together. Our topic for this one is multiplying with fives, which I think everyone really likes multiplying with fives because it has such a clear pattern to how it works, multiplying with fives. Skip counting right away gives us a clue to how multiplying with fives works. Let's fill in the blanks. This is number 1 on your worksheet for skip counting with fives. We say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Okay, and you look at those numbers in a row, and let's notice the pattern that shows up when we use fives in multiplication. Every number has in its one place either a 5 or a 0. 5, 0, 5, or a 0, 5, or a 0, 5, or a 0. So one quick thing you can do when you're doing a multiplication problem and you're multiplying by 5, if you've ever come up with a product that doesn't end in a 5 or a 0, you can know right off, I need to do that math again, because multiplication with a 5 will always end in a 5 or a 0, right? And so counting by fives is a good way to strengthen your multiplication abilities with fives. Sometimes people sing when they skip count because it helps them remember 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Okay, so sometimes if singing helps you memorize it, fives are a little bit easier to remember than some just because we actually count by fives pretty frequently, and also, as I said, they have such a clear pattern. Let's go to number 2. We're going to use a number line to find our multiplication answer. And so we've used number lines before for addition or for subtraction, but when we do that, we're counting up like each little dot. And because multiplication is moving in equal amounts, big equal amounts, we can just go by fives. This says 2 times 5 equals, so we'll make 2 big jumps of 5. 1, 2, 5, 10. 2 times 5 equals 10. Okay, we'll do the same over here. Number 3 asks us to solve 3 times 5 and also to show those jumps of 5 on the number line. So we go 1 jump to 5, 2 jumps, and 3. 5, 10, 15. 3 times 5 equals 15. Okay, so being comfortable with the number line can really help you not just, it's important to just memorize these facts, but also you want to really understand what's happening. And if you think about a number line, it can help you picture what's happening, what kind of numbers are coming together. All right, let's look at this one, number 4. This is number 4. 5 times 6 it asks us to do. So that means we're going to do 5 times 6 is what it asks us to do. So let's go by 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 5 times 6. Now we also, and that gives us our answer, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. It wants you to write down the related math fact, the related multiplication fact, and we've talked about this, that multiplication, you can switch these two numbers, the factors, to get the same product. So the related multiplication fact for this one is 6 times 5, and the product is 30. The product is the same. All right, so this is actually what's happening here. And so the number line can help you. The skip counting can help you. I think you won't have trouble with the last few numbers on there. There's just more practice of it, and then on the back, again, more practice. And then one thing I wanted to review with you for the review time, they are asking you to write an expanded form. So let's just do a quick reminder. What is expanded form? This is number 8 on the back of your worksheet. Expanded form is like taking the numbers apart. And you have 700 plus 80 plus 7. So you're taking the number apart into its big parts, from the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. 700 plus 80 plus 7 is the expanded form of 787. And you have several of those to do. You'll just take each number apart and write it in its expanded form. That's your review time on that. In English, we are talking about giving clear instructions in a paragraph. Okay, so yesterday you listened to my instructions of how to draw a Jigglypuff. I really have enjoyed seeing your work as you've turned it in to me on Teams. And we talked about how the time order words are what helps the instructions be clear. Okay, here's an example of some instructions with no time order words, and they don't make very much sense, and actually they're not even being told in the right order. So if you followed these instructions, you'd have a hard time having the correct result, okay? But let's look at this, and I'll give you an example. Now, a paragraph needs a good topic sentence, so I would tell you, today I'm going to tell you how to make toast. All right, here's my options of what I have here. Eat warm toast, spread butter, toast the bread, gather your supplies. Now, which one of these things do you think you need to do it very first before you can even get started? Well, you need to gather your supplies. You need the bread and the toaster, the butter, and a knife. Okay, so to have success, you would want to first, let's put this time order word here, first gather supplies. And this is a step you might not always think of, but as we go on learning this, you're going to eventually get to write your own instruction paragraph and tell us how to do something. You want to think about, what do you need to have with you to follow these instructions? So first, gather your supplies. Bread, toaster, butter, knife. Right? What do you think comes next? Now after first, you could say second. There's other options. I'm going to say next. Gather your supplies. Are you going to spread butter? Not yet. We haven't toasted the bread. First, gather the supplies. Next, toast the bread. Right? Then we'll spread the butter. And last, my favorite part, eat warm toast. You can also say finally as your last instruction. Last or finally. So there's more than one option. The point is that clear instructions include time order words. Okay, so when we look at a paragraph in your workbook today, your worksheet is page 255, 256. You're going to get to read a paragraph that gives instructions, and you're going to be watching for the time order words in each blank, ones that you found in the paragraph. And you're going to think about, who is the audience for this paragraph, these instructions that were given. Okay, the audience for my instructions that I gave yesterday in the how to draw, those were you, my second grade class, how to draw the Jigglypuff. All right, so you're going to read these instructions on your workbook and think, who is this written to? Who is the audience for this? And what's the purpose? All right, the purpose of my instructions was to teach you how to draw. The audience of these kind of instructions, make me a piece of toast. These sound like instructions I might give one of my kids when I wanted a snack and I was hoping they'd help me out, right? I might say to one of my own children, hey, Mom wants a snack. will you please gather the supplies, toast the bread, spread the butter, and then bring it to me while it's warm so I can eat that toast. Okay, so you'll want to think about who's the audience and what is the purpose of the instructions. If I gave these instructions to my child and asked them to bring me toast at the end, I'm asking someone to do something, but I'm giving them clear instructions. When I taught you how to draw the Jigglypuff, the instructions were to teach someone how to do something. So there can be different purposes of instructions. You're also on your worksheet, underline the parts of the paragraph. And we've done this before at school whenever it was the parts of a paragraph. I think we underline in different color, the topic, the details, the closing, things like that. You're going to do that same thing, but with purple, green, blue, orange, red. So you want to get crayons or markers, and you're going to be underlining the title, the topic sentence, the materials, the steps, and the ending sentence, okay? So the topic of my paragraph would be, please make me toast. Okay? And then we have supplies, and I told you my topic sentence, right? Today I want to ask you to make me some toast. And then I have listing supplies, listing the steps, and the closing last. Eat the warm toast. Okay, so you're going to use your colored pencils, markers, or crayons to underline that paragraph and show that you can tell the different parts of giving instructions in a paragraph. Okay, let's look at science. We've been talking about motion and forces, the forces of pushing and pulling that can set an object into motion. Let's learn a little bit more about that and add more words to our vocabulary about that. I want you to open in your science books today. I want you to read page 168 and 169, okay? In your textbook, you'll be reading 168 and 169. And I want you to notice what are the bold print words, because that's more vocabulary. So far we've talked about a force, which can be a push or a pull. We've talked about motion, which is just when something is moving, when an object is moving. We've talked about Sir Isaac Newton, who came up with the laws of motion, and how the different ways that we can see that works again and again. Things being in motion, things stopping. Now, a new word that we're going to add to our vocabulary of how objects move is friction. Okay, so a force can cause an object to move. A force can also cause an object to stop. Okay, so the force acts on the object whether to put it in motion, to change its direction, or also to stop it from moving. Friction is a force that slows down the motion or stops, depending on how much friction there is. Let's do a little example. This is a table, a smooth surface. This is a little can of food. Okay, and on this smooth surface, there's no friction. There's no force to slow it down. This is smooth. I can roll this can of food, okay? You can hear that it just can roll easily. There isn't friction. Now, if I move a carpet square onto that table, it's no longer smooth. I can feel with my hands, the way it feels to rub my hands on it, there's friction here. And now if we roll it, I can't roll it as well. The friction of the carpet slows it down. If I want it to roll as far as it rolled before, I have to use more force. I have to make my force stronger to get it to go as far, because the friction is slowing it down. Okay, so when you read your workbook today, your textbook today, you'll hear more details about friction, which is something that slows down or stops an object from being in motion. And this is the same as just when we just talked about push and pull and those forces in motion, you start realizing these are things you can observe in your everyday life over and over. If you were be thinking about this and thinking with a scientist's mind, to think, I wonder, where else do I see friction just in my everyday life? One thing you could look at is go get some of your shoes from your closet or from your shoe rack and look at the bottom of them, and you can wonder which of these shoes creates more friction for me. You know how you put on some shoes and they're kind of fun, especially if you're at like in a hallway with just lots of smooth open space and you can kind of take a walk and slip in them a little bit, just slide along. Well, those shoes don't create very much friction for you. Whereas there's other shoes, maybe something you would use for hiking or climbing up some rocks, or the kind of shoes you would want if you're playing soccer. They are going to create a lot of friction to help you grip or be right where you are or not be slippy, okay? So I want you to notice that in your everyday life. Where are some places that you can see friction being at work, slowing down or stopping an object that's in motion? Okay, many of you mentioned when you took your walk and saw things in motion, people pushing strollers. I was thinking about that's a place you could end up feeling friction. Like if you imagine first you'd been just pushing a stroller on a clean sidewalk, you just push it. There's not very much friction to stop your movement. But if you went off the sidewalk into the grass, it would be much harder to push the stroller because that grass would be causing friction and making it harder for it to move. Your worksheet page is 143 in your workbook. It's going to show you several pictures of things and just wants you to think about which of these surfaces has the most friction. And I hope those pictures doing this worksheet sparks that kind of thought in you, that you start spending time just in your day, in your home, in your backyard, wondering, where do I see more friction? Which surface has more friction? Okay, you could even experiment with it. Maybe you want to slip on your shoes on a sidewalk outside and then drop dirt across the sidewalk and see if you can slip across it again. Okay, I love learning about the way God's world is made and all the different things that come into play. And if we have our eyes open and we're thinking and observing, we can see all the different ways it comes together. So I want you to read these 2 pages and do your workbook, and we will talk about tomorrow where we see friction just in our everyday observations. Let's go to our reading time. We've been reading a story called Granny Nell's Dulcimer, and we're on part 3 now. Let's think about what's happened so far. How does Tansy, that's one of the main characters, how does she become good friends with Granny Nell? Can you remember? Think about the story as we've read it so far. Tansy has spent the whole summer visiting with Granny Nell. She comes to her cabin. Granny Nell has been teaching her how to play the dulcimer and about life in the mountains. Granny Nell knows a lot about the animals and the life and the music. And so Tansy's been spending a lot of time with her and learning a lot from her. Do you remember, what does Granny Nell do each year? She competes each year. Do you remember why she competes? She competes each year in a music competition. And some of the people in the town have told Tansy Granny Nell wins every single year. When Tansy asked Granny Nell about that, she said, yeah, when I win the competition, it helps me pay the money that I owe for my house. So it's something that happens every year, and then it helps her pay her bills. Now, why is Granny Nell staying now at Tansy's house, at the Ledfords' house? Well, in the last part of the story we read, Granny Nell fell and broke her arm. And so she's staying with Tansy and her family so they can help take care of her and look out for her while she's hurt. What do you predict might happen if Granny Nell's arm doesn't heal properly? Or why do you think this is an important thing? What do you think? Let's think about that as we're going on to the next part of the story. This is an important thing, that her arm heals, right? She needs to go back, be able to go back to her cabin and take care of herself. And with a broken arm, she can't play her dulcimer, right? All right, let's begin reading. Let's read together. I want you to have your reading book out and in front of you, and I want you to read silently along with me while I read aloud. All right? 144, Mountain Melodies. The next morning, Tansy balanced a breakfast tray and knocked on Granny's bedroom door. "Come in," called Granny. Tansy pushed open the door. "Let me help," said Granny, starting to get up. "Wait, Granny," said Tansy, and she walked across the room. "There, I made it." She set the tray down, being careful not to hit Granny's cast. "Thank you, Tansy," said Granny. She handed Tansy a piece of buttered toast. "Now you can help me eat all this." Tansy grinned. "Mom did give you a lot, didn't she?" She reached for a slice of bacon. Her hand stopped in midair. "Granny," she said, "you can't play in the competition with a broken arm." "No," Granny replied. "I can't play with one hand. But we do need the dulcimer. Ask your mother if she can go get it this morning." Tansy frowned. She was still thinking about the competition. "But you need the money." "Now, child," Granny said, "you get that worried look off your face. The Lord has always provided for me. Things have a way of working out when you trust Him." "All right, Granny," Tansy said. "I'll go ask Mom if I can go now." "I heard," Mom said as she knocked on the door. "You run along, Tansy. I need to talk to Granny about something." Tansy half ran, half walked up the trail. At the log, she stopped and she whistled for Blue. Remember, she always meets the bluebird, or the blue jay right about now. Wings flashed in the sunlight as Blue landed on her finger. "Oh, you've never come this close before," Tansy whispered. "You're worried about Granny Nell too, aren't you?" Birds chirped, or Blue chirped and flew back up the trail toward Granny's cabin. Tansy followed. At the cabin, she took the dulcimer off its peg. As she started out the door, a tiny animal scampered out on a limb. "You miss your music, don't you? Granny Nell didn't get to play for you yesterday." Do you remember in the beginning of the story, every afternoon when Granny Nell sits on her porch and plays music, little animals come out of the woods, like they enjoy listening. Tansy sat on the porch steps and played the songs Granny had taught her. The squirrel hopped closer, tilting his head to one side. "So you finally like the way I play," said Tansy. It was then that a thought came to her. "I wonder if I could enter the music competition," she said to the little squirrel. "And if I win, I could give Granny the money for her taxes." Tansy held the dulcimer close and walked back down the trail to her house. "Mom, Granny," Tansy called as she entered the house. She walked to Granny Nell's bedroom and stopped at the door. The two women looked up. "I want to enter the music competition at the fair," Tansy said. "That is, if Granny will let me use her dulcimer." "You may use the dulcimer, Tansy, but you will need to practice a lot," Granny said. "I will," promised Tansy. "I will practice every day." And so she did. Right? That's where we're stopping in the story. It's special that Granny will let Tansy play the dulcimer and use it so much because, do you remember, Granny has told her, "This is my special dulcimer that I got from my own mom." So we know that must mean it's old. It might be kind of fragile, but we do know it's very special to Granny now. So I think it's really cool that she's sharing it with Tansy, and that Tansy and Granny Nell have got such a good friendship now. Why is Tansy feeling worried? Remember, Granny Nell says, "Get that worried frown off your face," right? Tansy is feeling worried. Why is she feeling worried? She's thinking about how you need two hands to play the dulcimer, and now Granny Nell can't play in the competition, and she needs that money to pay for her taxes on her house. But why isn't Granny Nell worried? She's not worried. Why is she not worried? Well, she tells Tansy that she trusts God to provide for her needs. That God is, so she knows, she's an older woman, so she has a whole life of knowing that God is powerful and loving and that she can trust Him to provide for her. What idea does Tansy have for helping Granny Nell? I like that. She came up with the idea at the end, and it's a brave idea. She says, I will enter the competition and I will help win the money so I can help Granny Nell. So I like that. I think that means she's thinking about her new friend and what she needs, and she's feeling brave. Like, I will work hard on this hard thing and I will practice every day, and then I will be brave to enter a competition and try to win for my friend Granny Nell. Okay, so now we've read this story together. Now I want you to do your worksheet, your reading worksheet. It's 321 and 322. You're going to be answering some questions to try to see if you can tell what are the characters' emotions when you're reading the clues in the words of the sentences. What emotions can you tell someone is feeling? One of the things about reading is that as we get better and better at telling what all the clues in a sentence mean, we can really picture what's happening or feel with the characters what's happening. And then on the back is more of a phonics exercise. And I also want you to do a phonics page today. This is a fun one. I think you'll like it. It's page 115 and page 116. This is a review of how the letter C can make more than one sound. Sometimes the letter C has a sound like k, like cat. But sometimes letter C says s. Still the letter C, but it can say s, like in the word city. So that's called hard and soft C. It's either a S sound or a K sound. So you're going to look at these. They have all these skateboards, and each skateboard has a K and an S on the wheels. You're going to look at the word, read the word, and then color only the skateboard wheel that makes the sound of the C in the word. So I think that's fun. You'll get to use some crayons and do that. Just color one wheel on each skateboard for which sound the C makes. And the back is more examples of hard and soft C, and you'll be filling in a bubble. Okay, so work hard and enjoy reading. I look forward to seeing all of your homework turned in on Teams under the Assignments tab when you take a photo and then click Add Work and then turn it in. There's always a little cartoon that's kind of fun, but then I can look at all of it and check it and see how it's going.